Welcome, everyone, to today's Lead Generation World podcast. My name is Michael Faree. I have got a great show for you guys today. We've got good friend and industry veteran Dan Redman joining us today. I also want to thank our sponsors, Digital Media Solutions, who provided this awesome shirt. Feels good. It's a nice shirt. And also for supporting Lead Generation World, the conference. We also have our second universe sponsor. I want to thank Lending Tree, who is also supporting the event, and so many other sponsors that you can take a look at leadgenerationworld.com. If you haven't registered, please do so. $295 and a ton of value for that price. So don't wait until prices continue to go up like you do at every other show. Go ahead and book now. It's cheap. It's excellent. It's going to be a great show. We've got the agenda, which is going to be coming out next month, actually probably in a couple weeks. We already have a bunch of speakers on the website, so you can go and check that out as well. But if you're in the lead gen world, if you're a buyer, seller, service provider across any vertical, specifically insurance, mortgage, solar, or EDU, we've got great content planned for you, so you won't want to miss it. And so it's content that's going to be interactive. It's going to be content that you can actually take back and apply back to your own organization, and not a lot of fluff. It's going to be the meat. It's just, of a lot of great content. So join us. Go check out the website, and we'll go from there. So coming up next, we've got Dan Redman. All right, I just want to welcome Dan Redman to the show. Dan and I go way back. I don't know how far back. How far back do we go, Dan?
2005.
Really? Oh, you know what? That's true. We both worked, and I totally forgot about that. And this is a good backstory. So this was my entrance into the whole lead gen world. Got hired at a mortgage and insurance company, mainly mortgage, to run their lead buying and analytics. And I think we had under maybe 100 LOs there across here in San Diego, and then also in Arizona. And we were buying 200 to 400 leads, maybe 400 a day. And then were you there before I came, or just shortly after, or same time?
I think we were within a couple of weeks of each other.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was really close. And I think you were there, like a month or two after I was?
Oh, is that it? Okay. Okay.
I think so. We had pretty tight tenures there.
And you ran the marketing there, right?
Yeah. So you were buying, I was driving.
Yeah. And where were you before that?
So I was running the marketing for a performance auto parts shop in Chula Vista.
Got it. And somehow,
so completely unrelated. Yeah.
Yeah. And somehow and same here. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't know. You know what's funny is I was working for a basically a web development company. You know, SEO and.
I remember that place.
Yeah.
It was at After Dark.
After Dark Graphics. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, we would get leads in, inquiries, and we had a couple sales guy, and I'd shoot them off to the sales guy. And so when I did the interview for the job at the mortgage company, they're like, oh, what do you know about leads? And, distributing leads. I'm like, that's what I do all day long. I get leads in, I send them off to the right other person. And I had no idea what I was in for when it came to, hundreds of leads a day, working with 20 plus different vendors. But we quickly learned and figured it out. And I think we actually came up with some really, really great stuff while there. And I learned while maybe, what do they call it? From the hose, but,
drinking from the fire hose.
Yeah. But got a ton of experience, but yeah, totally. Oh yeah, I know about leads.
Yeah. You know what that says though? The common thread there is God bless Bill Lyons. That guy, he took a chance on both of us.
Yeah.
Really. I didn't have any real solid, I had no experience in financial services like that. Uh-huh. And especially a team that big with a role that large, it was a big swing up for me.
Yeah.
And I think Bill just saw something each of us, you know, as young tykes in the marketing world, and rolled the dice.
Yeah.
That is a smart dude. That's one guy I could tell you. Even today, I swapped a couple messages with him. That's a guy that in business that I'll probably always admire. Just the way he approaches. He's like a rare breed kind of person that not only is he like diligent and like has ultimate expertise and like, you know, domain authority, but he also is charismatic, you know, so he's like, he has both sides of that leadership role that he can play. It's tough to beat him.
Yeah. And he was a young guy too. Younger
Yeah.
than, I know me, potentially younger than you. I don't know. You look a lot older than you probably
Stop
are.
that. I knew you were going to say that. You are the worst kind of person.
Yeah, you know, at a young guy running a big company like that, and then just going through the whole mortgage, you know, collapse and all that kind of stuff is crazy, and he's doing quite well now. So, yeah, so that gave you kind of the start, and well, not the start, but definitely, like you said, propelled you into another sort of realm when it came to management marketing. Um, you know, after that, what you went over to e-visibility, I think at the time. Or
Yeah. So if you remember back, we were the biggest client of eVisibility at the time. And when things started going south in mortgage, I shot Danny D a note, Danny D Michelle, and shot him a note and said, "Hey, there's just so happens that there's a badass marketer that's becoming a free agent."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Who would that be?" And of course, I had to chase him. It was a couple months worth of chasing Danny, but I finally talked him into bringing me on, and that was actually, and I think we both look back and said that was an incredible ride.
Yeah.
You know, we took that company. It was in a tiny office. There were, I think I was maybe number 15 in the company, and in a couple of years, we built it up to 70 employees, and then back down to 30, and then up to 40, and then acquisition and partnership. And then it became the conglomerate that you were a part of, which was the third largest privately owned agency in the country. And I left right before it started to get really crazy.
Oh yeah. Wait. So
We
okay,
crossed
and
paths
I
again,
know we're
sir.
talking a lot of inside baseball here, and people have no idea what we're talking about. But what uh, the company I was with, an agency at the time running performance marketing, sort of not well in the performance marketing division. Um, and that same company that acquired Geary Interactive acquired eVisibility.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you had walking through the halls a bunch of eViz employees that you probably remember, Fumi and Carrie and
Yeah.
you know, all those guys were all eViz
Yep.
players, and yeah, they got slapped onto the side of that rolling cement truck,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was GLSF.
Yeah. So fast forward to today. I mean, yeah. So you did sort of the SEO thing, the agency stuff, and we even had some time doing lead gen and solar for a couple years, which was fun. And then uh, tell me about what you're doing now, and sort of maybe just a little lead up to what you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I've been, obviously we're talking about it now. I've been in the agency world and in marketing, sales and marketing for, you know, quite a while. And you and I had something interesting for a bit. You know, I think that if I knew now if I knew then what I knew, if I knew then what I know now, Michael,
Yeah.
we could have had something really special. And I think that's what you look back and say, oh gosh, the experience. How do I get the experience? It's by failing, right? Failing a bunch of times miserably, and you know, that helps propel you through, you know, future endeavors. And what I'm doing now is, man, it's amazing because I can finally capitalize on what I've always believed to be the best way to do business, and that's building relationships. You know, there's this like movement currently in sales and marketing where and you kind of know this, and I've seen this for a long time in buying leads, that if I just play this numbers game where I throw my name into the hat with 150,000 people, I'm going to get X amount of leads, and then I'm going to turn one of those leads into a deal, and the math works, and I continue on through that process. That works for a lot of industries, and that works for a lot of like sort of turn and burn sales, and like small ticket sales or direct to consumer. That works really well, and that's kind of been the methodology for to consumer. But in high ticket B2B, a lot of agencies, a lot of companies are being tucked into that sort of framework, and it's not really setting those companies up for success. It's my belief that if you approach people from a relationship standpoint and you develop relationships over time and adjust to the sales cycle that's natural for your product, and match that with the timing of a company that's in market for you, you're going to not only win business at a higher percentage clip, you're going to have business that sticks. You're not going to have to burn through 10,000 leads every single month to get the numbers that you need. And literally everyone from top to bottom is going to be happier. Not only are your prospects going to be happier, that they're not exposed to 25,000 messages a day, but also your salespeople are going to be substantially happier. They get to focus on just lining up their values with prospects that have similar values, delivering benefits-based messaging, having fun with it, having passion around their communication, and leveraging that into driving new sales.
Yeah. So, you're going to be speaking and presenting at Lead Generation World Denver in January, and really talking about a lot about this topic. So people will definitely want to come and check it out. But when it comes to lead generation, sometimes we get stuck talking about just generating leads, and not so much about the process of nurturing them and all that sort of stuff. And I want to talk about sort of both, because basically what you're talking about there is it's about creating a relationship once you have potentially a prospect. What things are you doing from a B2B standpoint though today that helps generate a lead? And maybe before you answer that, maybe we should define in this terms of a conversation what a lead is, what a prospect is, and what maybe just a piece of data is, right? So there's Dan Redman on LinkedIn. That doesn't make him necessarily a lead, does it? Or, is it just a target? Just maybe some clarity on how you sort of look at that.
That's become the new definition. No, what you're saying is exactly right. It's become very gray. Mm-hmm. And now companies are selling leads, and all it is a name, a title, and a scraped email address from LinkedIn. There's so many lead vendors that have just popped up overnight that sell data, and literally it's just a scrape. Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate. Now it's sort of playing with the emotions of the lead buyer, right? Because you might have an expectation that you're buying a lead and that's somebody that's in market for a product, which that might be how I defined a lead 5 years ago. Now it's not. A lead is no different than data now.
Especially when we're talking B2B, right? Because B2B, the standards of sort of opt-in are completely different than, a consumer raising their hand and going, I filled out this form, please call me, or something to that effect. B2B is, hey, I got this, you can, like you said, you can get business email addresses pretty easily, and voila, I guess that's I wouldn't call it a lead, but
yeah, well, that's the thing. So, and then you've got, a differentiation between inbound and outbound. Mm-hmm. So in inbound, you would probably no longer call that a lead. You might call it something like an MQL. If someone fills out a form, they hit the inbox, we're tired of just calling this a lead. We're further defining it as MQL, meaning marketing qualified lead. It checks the boxes for the marketing team to say, look what we did, executive VP. We actually did our work. We're worth those big salaries. You don't have to pay us commission. Keep paying us, all these juicy benefits. You need us. We made a lead happen. That's what that's what today's MQL is.
Yeah.
But what used to be a lead 5 years ago is what you would probably now say it's an SQL, like somebody that is truly exhibiting an interest in a product or service, a solution.
And what's S?
Sales qualified lead. So sales
okay.
gets on the phone with somebody and they say, yeah, this actually is something I'm interested in. I'm your ideal client profile as well. Come to think of it, you should sell me something. That's your SQL.
Got it.
And listen, you talk to 10 different people, you'll probably get slightly different answers, but that's how I define it.
So
Outbound is a crazy world, though. Outbound is really the Wild West at this point.
Well, obviously we know what inbound, but outbound can be quite broad in different channels and all that sort of stuff. So when you say it's the Wild West from B2B standards, what exactly do you mean?
So there are there's another definition that has completely changed shape, and that's the definition of spam.
Yeah.
So we no longer refer to spam as spam, but we refer to it as outbound, right? We just happen to handpick these 200 people that meet our qualifications for one reason or another, and we learn everything we can about them and either message them through social media and email, and do our best using our experience, using metrics, using interest-based data to stimulate a response. Spammers made millions of dollars, lo and behold, in the late 90s, early aughts. And, now the new version of that is the cold outreach.
Yeah. So, and what's facilitating it, and I'm part of it. I use, a platform that allows me to target people on LinkedIn, send them messages, and they're completely cold for the most part. Right. I try to generate messages that are very conversational and not salesy, but trying to connect with people and listen. LinkedIn, I think one could argue is there for connecting and networking from a business, standpoint. It's not for, friends. It's not necessarily to see your kid's photo at the baseball game and then you're selling them something. No, it's business related, right? So
Yeah.
is that, and so LinkedIn is sort of being used as a, tool. We're getting messages, daily, that are very salesy. Is that sort of what you're referencing?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And it's a catch-22 for LinkedIn, right? So LinkedIn, probably a data analyst at LinkedIn woke up one morning and said, whoa, look, our numbers in Southern California, all of a sudden, the engagement is increasing. Wait, what? Now in Phoenix, Florida, New York, so many people are messaging each other. This is incredible. And, then LinkedIn had to pull the reins back a little bit because they discovered that a lot of it is unwarranted. It's poorly written, poorly drafted, poorly targeted, and it's using automated tools to exploit what's really a loophole in the way LinkedIn is built, because LinkedIn wants to stimulate business networking, as you said. But when you overuse it, you completely saturate the validity of that tool, right? Or that channel. And it's completely wiped InMail off of the map. Nobody cares about InMail. They probably, have a hard time selling InMails to people. I still get them now and then, and you probably do too, but it's crazy. And I see a lot of people. I've actually been screenshotting, so I'm excited to share in January some screenshots of people that are literally just fed up with how many. You change your title on LinkedIn to CEO, and you're just going to get you should do it for just a day and see what happens. You get an absolute barrage of messages if you're a CEO. So
right, because it messages all your contacts, right, and says, hey, so and I see them pop up every day. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. I definitely think LinkedIn is, from a business aspect, an untapped sort of frontier that's really evolving. And where it goes, I don't know, but there is a lot of impressions that you can gain by utilizing LinkedIn in a good way. Or
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's a good way, but in a way, in a sort of social media marketing type of way. And so that's why you see, guys, putting quotes, doing videos, and all this sort of stuff now, right, to gain more and more impressions. And there seems to be, that you probably know more about, algorithm that really leads to those types of messages. And there's obviously some kind of benefit. People are doing it and doing it with quote unquote success.
It can be extremely effective. So you have a few things at play. There's different types of people that are making a lot of money on LinkedIn right now. It's the content creators are getting as much business as they can handle, and also the agencies that have picked up a piece of software or are reselling a piece of software. They're wrapping $500 to $1,000 worth of fees around it and selling these automated LinkedIn strategies and guaranteeing a certain amount of meetings or demos or whatever the metric is for their client, which is crazy. And people, will get sort of romanced by that, right? It's like, the model walks into the bar and everyone's starting to look at her. Well, if someone tells you that they're going to set you up with between 10 and 20 meetings a day, you start doing the math, right? And you start to fall in love with that. Like, well, if I could just close one of those, my God, like, I'm killing it. I'm getting a new deal every single day. But
yeah,
if you really sit down and do the numbers, and I did, it's like up to 80 hours worth of meetings per month that you could be set up with if they're maxing you out and they're completely booking up your calendar. I don't know, like, a small business that can even handle that load of meetings. First of all, like, can you imagine like running a small business and 80 hours a month you're tied up in sales calls?
Well, are they legit?
No, that's the thing. The numbers never work out. So 79 of those hours are going to be completely wasted.
Oh yeah,
absolutely guaranteed.
Well, you just got off a call, right?
Exactly. There's your case in point. I will absolutely guarantee that 90 to 99% of those meetings are trash. They're looking to hit that guaranteed metric, right? So what they're going to do is open up the relevancy to target a mass audience. They're going to use, super juicy. They're going to throw a cheeseburger at somebody to get them to take a meeting with you. And you're going to be on the phone with an MLM guy. Next thing you know, or girl.
Trying to get you to sell CBD.
Yeah. Such is my life, Mike. But that's the thing. You get stuck in that stuff, and if you're taking 80 hours worth of meetings, how much scrubbing do you actually get to do, right? If you're literally going from one meeting to the next, or your SDR is even over the course of an entire day, how much scrubbing can you do? Yeah. How much can you qualify each of those meetings and research and build rapport and do all the things that you should do as a good salesperson on a call? The answer is nil. It's just not a really good, really sound business strategy.
So
let me qualify for the SMB and even small mid-market.
Yeah.
For enterprise and you've got a couple SDRs you don't even like that much, go ahead, slam them with 80 hours worth of meetings. See what happens. It's worth a test.
I saw a video just, I think yesterday, with Gary Vaynerchuk, and obviously he's just a social media like powerhouse, storm.
Yeah.
Every single chain. He's on TikTok, for crying out. I mean, he's everywhere. Yeah. And but he said, in this video, was that LinkedIn is like the new frontier, like the untapped, there's just untapped sort of frontier for business development, sales, and social media. Utilizing social media for your own growth.
Mm-hmm.
So we touched on sort of a lot of the negative potentially that's surrounding LinkedIn. How do you utilize LinkedIn successfully, if at all?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And this is the question that I love solving for, because I think it's really important, and it's where the pendulum is going to swing. Okay, we've tried beating up 10,000 people every month. It's not really working. The numbers aren't working. How do we make this work? And I think it really goes back to some of the age-old, tried and true lessons and irrefutable laws of marketing. You know, if I told you, Mike, if you could handpick and only market to 50 people in a month, how would you go about doing that? This is a real question. How would you do that? How would you market to 50 people and make it effective?
Well, so if I had only 50 people I had to target, how would I do it?
Yeah, that was your cap. That was your absolute cap.
I mean, it depends on the business, but I would go to LinkedIn. I would try to do a massive, this is B2B speaking. I would try to do exact match searches on profiles and interests of some sort. And I'd reach out to them. I'd do the cold email and connect with them somehow. And hopefully there's some type of connection outside of just business and sales that I can make with that person, and create a pseudo relationship with, and then go from there. You know, I don't.
You're 100% right. So what it really is if I'm only going to market to a small pool of people, first of all, I'm going to hand select those people very tightly,
Right,
and learn as much as I possibly can about them. I'm going to data enrich to better understand their lives, what their challenges are, you know, understand their business really well, so that I can speak as if I'm in their shoes. Mm-hmm. So that when I send them an email, they're gonna respond back, "How did you know?" Or, "This is crazy. I just dealt with that yesterday." That's the response that I want from an email. That's the barometer that I'm doing it right. If I can send 50 emails that turn into 10 meetings, that turn into 2 deals, those are the metrics that work for me, and really work for a sound B2B strategy, in my opinion. Everyone does it differently.
Yeah.
But the way I do it is by thinking extremely small, but effective, lean. And that's how you start from a really valuable standpoint, right? Like if someone reads an email from me and they say, "Dude, Dan's crazy. Like, he really understands my business. He understands my challenges. He knows my favorite soccer team." We're off to a really good start.
Is that creepy though? Is it too much?
It is. So if I sent you an email and it said, "Michael, I know that you are a Borussia Dortmund supporter. I don't think you are,
no.
But that would be creepy."
Yeah.
And that's not how you use database enrichments. You use database enrichments, but in other ways. I'll give you an example. So I'll give you 2 examples because they're a little bit different. One example, earlier this year, I was running a campaign for a marketing agency, and we did some audience affinity research and discovered, this is again getting back to thinking small, shrinking. Mm-hmm. We did some research, and this particular target, which was CEOs of SaaS companies under 150 employees, they love Star Wars. They really love it. And I wasn't that surprised, but seeing it on paper was entirely different, or virtual paper was different, right? So what we did was we built sequences that, of course, express value, position, and all that stuff. You can only cram that down somebody's throat, you know, how many times before they're sick of you, they unsub, you're burning the list, you're not being effective. But then we completely transitioned at a certain level within the sequence into a full running Star Wars themed dialogue, which included video, even voicemails that were left, had Darth Vader sound effects in it. In a galaxy far, far away, long ago. I'm butchering that.
Yeah.
The prospect actually got back to us, and you, the client, took the lightsaber and you defeated, the Rebel Empire and all that stuff. So we work that into, the communication that we have with the client.
Well, it sounds crazy.
Right?
It sounds crazy to do something but I think it goes to the point which you'll probably talk about here in a second, but it's also using some humor as well.
Take humor right to the bank. Take it to the bank. So, and you don't have to be hilarious. All you need to be. I
can see that it's not important for you.
All you need to be is interesting. That's all you need to be.
Yeah.
You don't need to write jokes. If you write jokes, you're failing. All you need to be is authentic. You need to step outside of corporate formality for just a brief second and talk to somebody and say things that are exciting for you to tell somebody.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, like, delivering those Star Wars themed messages, I've never seen a happier SDR in my life. They were fired up to make phone calls. They were excited to produce videos. The production of the content went up, and the delivery of the content went up, and the communication went up as a result of having, like, a fun, playful theme. So
how did it work? And so obviously I can't imagine, you took it over the top and it was corny or anything, but how did it,
I would never do that.
How did it, work out?
Generated $500,000 in pipeline in a month.
Wow. And listen,
it's 68 new opportunities generated out of that list.
Out of what conversion sort of was that, out of curiosity?
Yeah, there was probably 2,000 companies in target.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and trying to get a hold of a CEO or business leader at all cold, right? Because these are cold messages, right? They don't know who you are, right?
Yeah.
And getting it in their inbox and have them read it is darn near impossible.
Yeah.
So doing, something a little bit different probably was quite successful. Maybe it was a Star Wars thing, but just combining that with something that's completely out of this world.
Good. I like the wordplay there.
Yeah. And using the Force there to make it happen seemed to have worked, I guess, huh?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So people get this. There's this mentality of buy or die, right?
Uh-huh.
Buy or die, buy or die, buy or die. Move on to the next. Buy or die, churn, buy or die. No, no.
Yeah.
No, it's not buy or die. It's buy now or perhaps buy later. And if you keep people in funnel and not throw your Hail Mary pass or be rude and eccentric, in like throwing your end of your breakup emails, which have become like, synonymous with email sequences, keep someone in the funnel. Why burn it? Just keep them in the funnel. You're really competing against somebody's inbox, rather than, and their timing, right? So last year, I think I've shared this stat with you before. Last year, the average prospect in B2B was touched 9 times by a salesperson. And that is double from 9 years ago, from 2010.
So they're just getting hammered.
Hammered.
Yeah.
Hammered. So even if you're not, say you sell like grocery store kiosks and you think to yourself, there's only like 2 or 3 grocery kiosk companies in the world. Mm-hmm. Who are we really competing against? Everybody. You're competing against the size of somebody's inbox. That's who your biggest competitor is.
Yeah.
So does that mean you should touch people 9 times? No, that's the average. You should be stretching your communication as long as you can. Keep people in funnel, stay in front of them, wait until the timing is right, and you'll be there. And, if you're communicating appropriately and serving messaging that's at least somewhat intriguing, then you're doing your job.
So let me ask,
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. How hard was it to pitch this Star Wars idea to your client, or whoever you were working with at the time? Did they think you're crazy?
Well, I mean, most people do. But no, it wasn't, because it's different, right? And
Yeah.
there's been very few times where I've pitched like sort of a turn corner like that and had someone really balk at it, because I use data. I drive it with data. So
Yeah.
another example is a local comedy theater targeting HR managers, and it kept popping up in a lot of different enrichment places. The common thread with HR managers, at least in San Diego, is Taco Tuesday. They love them some tacos, and they love doing tacos on Tuesday, which kind of makes sense, because they're like probably the organizers of a company, right? Like they probably
Right.
organize outings, and so it was like, okay, Taco Tuesday, that makes perfect sense. Why didn't we think of that? Why haven't we appealed to people around sort of like a Taco Tuesday centric theme before? And it opens up an entire world, right? So we injected fiesta themed copy and set up some meetings. It
Yeah.
was effective.
So you essentially had Taco Tuesday at the Comedy Store or something to that effect.
Well, it was even more simplified than that. It was, hey, it's Tuesday. We scheduled our emails for Tuesday. I have a pretty good idea of what you're going to be doing later with the rest of the team. And because it was a comedy theater, we could take a lot of like liberties with the copy.
Yep.
We even had a meme of like a taco looking really sad, like, hey, why didn't you get back to us? So there was a lot of fun things that we were able to do with that one.
That's awesome.
But that's kind of the basic idea is like, okay, we've expressed your USP. They get it. We see opens. We can siphon out people that have opened, and what do we do with them now? Do we just keep pressing them into that? Are they going to like us if we do that? Are we building a relationship here, or can we have a little fun and appeal to somebody that maybe can take their corporate formality hat off for a second?
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about automation and, even some AI, if you guys are implementing in that, and what your thoughts are, if you're not, if you are, but maybe, how does this all sort of get built out from an automation standpoint?
Yeah. So automation is already now, in my opinion, an absolute necessity because of the number I gave you previously. So let's think back to that 9 touches.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can only touch a prospect 9 times, and each touch takes me a certain amount of time to do, of course, like if I'm a salesperson, the average SDR can accomplish 94 revenue generating activities in a day. So if I do a little simple math, 94 and my 9 touches per prospect, if I'm not totally botching the math here, that is about 10 leads that you can work.
In a day or in just a given time period, or?
Yeah. So if it's, let's see, let's math it out. Let's math it out here.
Man, we're going to be here a long time.
Let's use 10.
Carry the 2. Yeah.
If I can touch 10 prospects per day,
okay,
and I'm touching over a month, and they get 9 touches, I can do 94 times a day. I can probably work a couple hundred leads a month.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of it is redundant tasking, though. If I'm taking and even copy pasting emails over, changing some details, and then firing it off, it's time taken. If I'm sending a LinkedIn connection request and I'm automating it, I'm saving time. That's the only way to really scale beyond this crazy metric of how many touches per prospect. That's the only way to defeat it. Is by automating, because there's only a certain amount of time in the day. There's only a certain amount of hours, and you've got to find a way around it. Yeah. So for me, it's shrinking the list down, making it more relevant, converting at a higher rate off of less leads, and automating so that you're defeating redundancy. That's how you win today.
So so one thing I'm curious to know, we sort of touched on email as a form of communication strategy, but what's sort of the scenario or the strategy for you, the contacts, those 9 touches? Are they all just emails, or are they voice recordings? Are they calls? What's that like today?
Yeah. So again, I think this should be data driven too. So I like to do research and discover the top platforms for my target.
Okay.
Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it WhatsApp? And discover some of those platforms before I just use what's easy and readily available. If you can,
So it's not one size fits all. It's custom
shouldn't
stuff
be,
depending
right?
on what you're trying to do. Yep.
It shouldn't be. I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about it, why would you just try and cram someone into a circle box, or if they're a square?
Right.
So taking your hat off and like just being completely agnostic, letting data drive the channels, letting data drive the messaging, shrinking a list and thinking about it in a different way. That's kind of like the premium strategy.
Yeah. From an AI standpoint, are there any have you seen any success with that as far as responses, or is that just a little too risky?
So you and I have talked about a test, and you've seen some tests that I've run, or been a witness of some testing that I've done in AI, and there's some scary stuff coming down the pipe, right? Like think about what you're going to be able to do with deep fakes.
Oh, right.
Down the road.
Yeah. Crazy.
From a sales standpoint, even like, let's say that, I automate using deep fake technology. What I'm going to be able to do is create personalized videos for 1,000 people at a time by feeding it scripts and feeding it my face. And, it's going to be able to overlay. And all of a sudden I'm having a one-to-one conversation with an unlimited amount of people at the same time. So that's frightening. I've been testing voice bots, which has been really interesting. It's as you know, it is. It's not a robo-dialer. It's not a chat bot. It is an interactive voice chat that the robot will actually take questions, respond to questions, and take you down a logic path based on responses, and actually push you into a meeting. So it's almost.
Do you think that's going to work? Do you think that'll work? Do you think people will be, open to that? I mean,
right now,
your example was quite funny, of course. So when I got the call, it was a robot voice. There's no question that it was, a bot. It wasn't your voice. And it was, it asked me a couple questions that got me laughing. And I started to think for a moment, is Dan playing a joke on me? Is he actually calling me with using that voice, or what the heck is going on? And so I went through it and I continued to listen. And so I suppose with anything we do, it really has to be keep people's attention. It can't be just straight sales, right? Would you like to, buy XYZ? Are you interested? What's your budget? And all these sort of questions. It's has to, be engaging, I guess.
Yeah. Here's the thing with that technology now. It's a novelty.
Yeah.
And it feeds someone's curiosity. That's why, it's a relatively high conversion rate now, because people are just want to go through the process to see what it's like, and can't believe that I should play your recording. I do have the recording of you laughing hysterically at it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. But that's what you get now. In a year from now, if it becomes a more widely used technology, people are going to know what it is, right? Like, they're not going to care as much. And then you're going to have to be a little bit more creative with it. The technology is going to have to get better. The voices are going to have to sound more lifelike.
Right.
The technology is going to have to catch up. But as it stands now, it's exciting, because it's kind of taking us down the direction of automating a lot of SDR tasks and SDR calling. And again, so many hours in the day, if I can automate some non-qualified leads, those MQLs, with a deep fake video and or an AI robo dialer that sounds real, that answers my questions, wow. I'm sure doing a lot of justice to a team that's fighting against a beaten up email inbox.
But the key here is, and a lot of what we talked about and what you're doing now is having sort of an organic conversation that has some humor to it, that, that people will enjoy, to interact with. But when you start to automate things, that is almost on the other side of the spectrum, right? They're like, oh, I'm just getting some automated voice call, and they get pissed off. And they're like, and could be even hold some animosity towards you. Like, this guy just spams me, right, with these automated things. So there's got to be real sensitivity towards the balance of making that work, if at all work now with today's technology, because it's probably not as good as it will be in 5 years from now, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. So I'll tell you how I use it. I use it in very spot occurrence for my funnel, and I use it in. So I don't fully buy into the breakup email, as I mentioned. I have more like entire modules.
What do you mean by the breakup email?
So a breakup email is like, here's the last email in my sequence. This is the 20th email I've sent to this one prospect. I'm going to get a response. If it's going to be a bad response, at least I get a response.
Just tell me no, kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And there's varying degrees of those. Like some companies do them kind of fun ones. Like I remember talking to someone at Seismic, and they did all Adele quotes and Adele memes in their breakup emails, and it was really effective for a little while. Cats. So people like using pictures of cats just to stimulate a response. Or people get aggressive and they say, you're wasting my time, you're a jerk, reply, or I'm going to punch your face, whatever it is. And they'll get a response. And so that's the standard breakup email, or what it's been for the last few years. So I like to do my Hail Mary pass, if that's what you want to call it, in chunks, in an experience, so that it's something that you actually want to go through and just see where it takes you. And what I do is, so if you want to sign up, go ahead and sign up on my site, salesenable.us, and you'll get to see this firsthand. But if you don't respond to any of my 60 days worth of messaging, then you get put into the email abyss. And the email abyss includes a couple of messages that take you on an adventure. You're going to get a postcard from the abyss. Then you're going to get a voice dialer, which is a collect call from me, from the email abyss, asking if you can book me a trip back to California.
Oh, that's funny.
And it's completely like a complete multi-channel adventure.
Oh man, that's classic. I'll have to do that. So, okay, so we unfortunately, I'd love to sit. We could chat all day long. I know you got a young kid, probably roaming around somewhere, back there.
No, he's in his cage.
He's in his cage. Okay. Locked in the dungeon downstairs.
Yeah, he's good. He'll be fine.
But you mentioned salesenable.us as your website, right?
Correct.
And so what are you doing? You're obviously helping companies sort of implement this strategy, and enabling sales, through these strategies for companies. Is it generally just B2B, or is it B2C?
I do have one B2C client. I feel most comfortable in B2B. If it's a pretty compelling and high ticket B2C offer, then I'll take a look.
Mm-hmm.
The one I have is kind of interesting, and it's an event, which I think events are great. So I like doing them. But yeah, usually my clients are B2B, longer sales cycle, high ticket, and really want to establish a little bit more process with their outbound. That's when I get brought in.
Got it. Well, I appreciate you sharing sort of the story. I think we'll have to do this again. We'll try to plan for something a little bit closer to the show in January. So maybe November, December, and to kind of see what you're going to be talking about. Because it's my understanding you're actually doing some case studies now that you'll be presenting at the show in regards to this whole process and this, B2B outreach strategy.
I'm going to blow your mind, Michael.
I hope so. And, I appreciate you being willing to participate. And because, lead gen isn't just always B2C. It's not always buying mortgage leads like we did. It's not always, filtering. It's the B2B portion of it too. And it's high ticket stuff. And it's how do you, nurture those, those prospects and get them to close. So I think it's going to be a great addition to the show, and I appreciate it, man.
I'm looking forward to it, brother.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good stuff. Let's party.
Cool. Well, I will. We'll follow up again in another month and see what's going on. If anybody is interested in reaching out to Dan, obviously go to salesenable.us. And then what's your email?
Just Daniel@salesenable.us.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, thanks for hopping on the podcast with us, and we'll check you later.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.